What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here inside the nerdy realm within the multiverse. Last month we got the teaser trailer for Thor Love and Thunder, and now we have got the official full trailer for the movie. So today we are going to go through the trailer bit by bit and try to break down the trailer and find as many Easter eggs or details that we can that you may have missed when watching it. We got a lot of Easter eggs in this trailer as well as first looks at things, so let's get right into breaking this trailer down.
Kids, get your popcorn now. Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson. He was no ordinary man.
We start off the trailer and this first part of the trailer looking at the same location that we saw in the teaser trailer from last month, which is a tree on a hillside. We can see the spot where we saw Thor presumably meditating, and we can also see two other figures walking up to the tree. We hear Korg talking to some people about Thor, and these people may be the Entidites, which are just an alien species from the comics. We also see them in the background of what seems to be a big battlefield where Thor as well as the Guardians of the Galaxy are. And we also see Thor use Stormbreaker in a manner that looks like he may be summoning the Bifrost, which we know from Infinity War he is able to do with Stormbreaker. Let's move on to the next part of the trailer.
He was a god. After saving planet Earth for the 500th time, Thor set off on a new journey. Well, he got in shape. He went from dad bod to god bod.
In this part of the trailer, we get a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy vibes and, well, the Guardians themselves, as we see Thor in his own type of Ravager uniform, the Ravagers being the group or faction that Yondu was a part of, and in the background we can see all of the Guardians themselves, including Kraglin, who is the one that is taking on the mantle of Yondu. We hear more of Korg's storytelling about Thor, who he calls the Space Viking, which is obviously because he is a part of Norse mythology. We also see a shot of what looks like New Asgard, and then we see Thor suiting up, changing from his Ravager uniform into the same outfit that we saw in the teaser trailer and that we also see throughout this trailer as well. The background of this shot makes it look like they are on Sakaar, which is obviously the planet that the Grandmaster ruled over in Thor Ragnarok. Then of course we see his transformation from his dad bod to the god bod, where we see his insane, or we could say godly, workout routine. He's battle roping a giant fossil and pulling the Benatar, which is the Guardian's ship, and it seems that it may have some minor upgrades or changes from the last time that we saw it. Now on to the next part.
And after all that, he reclaimed his title as the one and only Thor. Oh, spoke too soon.
Jane?
In this part of the trailer, we see Thor battling some type of unknown creatures, which could possibly be under the control of the villain, which we all know is going to be Gorr, the God Butcher. We then see Thor reuniting with a reforged Mjolnir, but of course it is not his anymore, and he isn't the one and only Thor, because Mighty Thor, aka Jane Foster, is now the worthy wielder of Mjolnir. The reuniting with Mjolnir turns into Thor's reuniting with Jane, where we see yet another suit of Thor's, which all of the suits for Thor and Jane look awesome in this movie. Let's move on.
The old ex-girlfriend.
What's it been, like 3-4 years?
8 years, 7 months and 6 days, give or take.
Am I, sensing feelings?
Well, you're right.
We see a short shot of Valkyrie flying in on her Pegasus into the same room that we see Jane in later on in the trailer. Of course, we get an epic superhero landing of Jane Foster's Mighty Thor in the hallway Valkyrie was flying into in the last shot, and that we see fully towards the end of the trailer, which we will talk about more when we get there. Thor and Jane talk about how long it's been since they've seen each other, and Thor, of course, knows the exact time it's been. We see some shots of Olympus, where we see the group Thor, Jane, King Valkyrie, and Korg all together. We then see Valkyrie and Thor on what looks like to be Sakaar again in this last shot of this part of the trailer. So let's move on to the next part.
The only ones who gods care about is themselves.
So this is my vow.
All gods will die.
This part of the trailer is huge. We see some sort of floating rock in space, which looks to have some type of structure on it. This most likely has something to do with Gorr, who we see grabbing a sword in the next shot as he is talking about gods and how they do not care for anyone else but themselves. Now, this sword that he is grabbing most likely is the all-black Necro Sword, which is what he wields in the comics. He acquires this after discovering a battle between two gods where he finds the sword and starts his rampage. This sword actually has a lot of history in the comics. Not only did Gorr wield this sword, but so did Null, who is also the creator of this blade and is also the god of symbiotes. And in this next shot, we get our first full look at Gorr. He doesn't look much like his comic counterpart really, but knowing someone like Christian Bale is playing this character and that he already looks terrifying, it's not really much of a big deal. This sort of structure that Gorr is in, or whatever is surrounding him in these shots, do look somewhat symbiotic, but it is also entirely possible that the MCU will take a different approach to the blade and how Gorr acquires so much power, as Null and the symbiotes such as Venom are under Sony right now, so it may refrain Marvel from doing anything related to Null, but they could also be slowly throwing little hints here and there. We see a shot of Thor and Korg looking at a giant deceased creature. This creature is actually a god, known as Falagar the Behemoth, who literally wrestled black holes for fun, and was a friend of Thor's in the comics, which may also be the case in this movie as Thor looks shocked and somewhat emotional while looking at Falagar's corpse, most likely being one of Gorr's first victims. This shot is so cool as it's taken straight from the comics, which I think is pretty awesome. In this part of the trailer, we also hear Gorr's vow on how all gods must die, which is basically his exact promise in the comics as well, as he grew a strong hatred for gods after none of them came to the aid of his family and his people, even after they prayed for them, which led to them all dying besides Gorr, which made him develop the severe hatred and motive to go after the gods. This shot of Gorr specifically may be before he gets his hands on the all-black Necrosword, as we can see none of the scars are on his face that we see in other shots in the trailer, meaning that we will most likely see his origin story fold out in the movie as well. Now on to the next part of the trailer.
I just want to say that was very, very impressive what you did back there.
He's just my first bad guy.
We start off this part of the trailer with Thor using Stormbreaker to summon the Bifrost for the boat, which is also driven by Thor's two goats, Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. We see another shot of Olympus as this flying boat flies in. This is most likely the same exact one that Jane and Thor are on from the last shot. We see Jane Foster's mighty Thor in action as she fights some kind of golden armored soldiers who may be a part of Olympus. When Jane uses Mjolnir, it looks as if the shattered pieces all fly out like they're all like their own little Mjolnirs flying at their targets. We then see a really creepy shot of Gorr, and then we see him driving his sword into what looks like it could be a moon or some type of small planet as it starts falling apart. Let's move on to the next part of the trailer.
Never forget your first.
You are not like the other gods of kill.
Because I have something worth fighting for.
Thor and Jane talk about Jane beating her first bad guy, and Thor says you never forget your first. Although they are talking about defeating their first villains, Thor is obviously also talking about a first love, which his, of course, was Jane. We see the same shot of Zeus facing the crowds of Olympus that we also saw in the teaser trailer last month. We see shots of Thor using Stormbreaker in a fight, which looks like it could be in the same place that Gorr drove his sword into, possibly the place of the final battle. We also see Valkyrie here fighting Gorr head on, but you can see that Valkyrie is not using her sword that we would normally see her use. She is actually using a lightning rod of Zeus's. Maybe she is using it in honor of him, as maybe he was killed by Gorr just before this battle, because with someone like Gorr as a villain, there will be casualties, especially when it comes to the gods. We see more of Olympus and Thor fighting the same type of warriors or soldiers that we saw Jane taking out earlier in this trailer. This could could possibly be in some type of arena on Olympus. We get another shot of Gorr with black blood coming from his mouth, telling Thor that he is different from the other gods that he has killed. This could be right after Gorr is stabbed or something, or maybe this shot is when he is being corrupted by the all-black necrosword. We get a shot of Nebula and Drax and a shot of Thor and Jane holding each other's hands. We also get another great shot of Gorr the God Butcher where it looks like him and Thor are facing off. And the last shot of this part is pretty interesting. We see Jane summoning lightning in the hallway that I mentioned towards the beginning of this. If we take a look in the background, we can see 6 statues, 3 of which we can identify. The first one is actually Lady Death, who is one of the many abstracts from Marvel Comics and who Thanos was in love with in the comics. I cannot get a good idea on who the two are behind her, however. Now onto the other side and the other statues. We get yet another Easter egg of the Living Tribunal, who is basically the judge of the entire Marvel Universe as a whole, and right behind him is a Watcher. Whether it is a Watu or not is really unknown, as it is just a statue, and the statue behind these two seems to be broken, so that one is also unable to be identified. Let's move on to the final part of the trailer.
Let's see who you are. I take off your disguise. And flick!
Oh, you flicked too hard, damn it!
Should we help him?
And eventually, grape.
We see more of Olympus in this last part of the trailer, as it looks like Thor is being held as a prisoner or something along the lines of that. He's being held by 2 lines of lightning, Zeus's lightning, which look like what Thor was using to fight those soldiers earlier in the trailer. We get to see Zeus, and he is being played by Russell Crowe. Of course, being that the movie is being directed by Taika Waititi, there are going to be some funny moments, which is what happens as Zeus flicks off Thor's clothes and leaves him naked in front of everyone, making everyone faint and gives everyone a good laugh as well. But when this happens and we see Thor's back, we can actually see that he has tattoos on his back, and one of them is more clear than any of the others, and that is a tattoo of Loki's helmet, which Loki is of course Thor's brother, and Thor most likely got a tattoo of this in remembrance to his brother, as he believes he is dead as of right now. But obviously we have the Loki series and he isn't actually dead, although he is technically not in the same timeline as Thor is. We see Valkyrie and Jane sitting in these chairs in Olympus witnessing everything that just happened. This shot of the trailer is in the same place of a photo that was released a few days ago of them sitting in these same chairs, as it seems like some type of council, and in the picture released someone else is sitting right below them, and it actually looks like the person below them could be Bast, who is the Panther god, relating to and being a big part of Black Panther's story. There will most likely be a lot of different gods being introduced in this movie as we dive deeper into different pantheons of gods. We may even see the introductions of gods such as Hercules and Ares, who are Zeus's sons. And in this last awesome shot of the trailer, we see Thor in his Ravager uniform leaping at a vehicle shooting at him, which looks like the same location that he was in the beginning of the trailer with the Guardians. That's about it for breaking down this trailer. Hopefully we were able to point out some things and explain some things that may have been missed or unknown prior to this breakdown. I'm very excited for this movie to come to theaters, and this may even be my most anticipated movie coming out this year. It's only a few months away, as it is coming out on July 8th. I can't wait to see how Christian Bale plays Gorr the God Butcher. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of the trailer, and if you found anything else in the trailer that we may have missed. With all of that being said, if you are feeling extra nerdy today, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on to help support the channel and to get more nerdy content from us. And if you wish to support us even further, feel free to check out the links in the description. As I always say, thank you all for watching. We will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.